Today we're going to be looking into that recent and controversial Windows 11 update that may be killing solid-state drives. Is this problem really as bad as people are saying it is? And if it is, what can you do to protect yourself? That's coming up right now, right here on Tech Talk. Now, likely most of you have probably heard about this recent Windows 11 update that seems to be causing challenges with solid-state drive controllers. In particular, controllers manufactured by Phison. Now, if you're not familiar with it, what a controller does on a solid-state drive is it really acts as an intermediary between the computer and between the data storage on that drive. So the controller takes the instructions from the computer and turns it into actions where it's sending and receiving data. So the controller is really critical for making sure a solid-state drive works. And this update, and it's Windows Update KB5063878, what it does is it's damaging those controllers. Now, in some cases, the controller's damaged such that the computer can't see that solid-state drive anymore, so it can't read and write data to it. Now, sometimes that error is correctable, and other times it's causing permanent damage to the solid-state drive so that the data on that drive is lost completely. Now, when this problem was first identified, I think back in the first half of August, it seemed like it was happening only under very narrow circumstances. It was when you were transferring large files, greater than 50 gigabytes, on drives that were more than 60% full. So that error was showing up under a tight set of circumstances that maybe didn't apply to a whole lot of users. So I want to bring you up to date on what's happened since then, because a lot of new information has come out. I've had a lot of questions about this in the comments to my other videos, so I really wanted to address it in a really simple format today. Now, what's happened recently, Jay's 2 cents. Now, Jay is a fantastic tech YouTuber. Half the planet, I'm sure, follows the guy. If you're not, you should. I'm going to put a link to his video down below. But he released a fantastic video on this topic recently. And the reason he released it was he actually ran into this problem on one of his computers completely by accident. He was doing some video gaming and running some benchmarks, and he had this issue where suddenly his solid-state drive just disappeared. So that was really remarkable for two reasons. First of all, he had this SSD problem in a way that wasn't anticipated. Supposedly, this problem only happened when transferring large files, but here it happened during a gaming and benchmarking session. Secondly, after it happened the first time, he was able to consistently reproduce the fault time after time when running the same scenario. Now that's important because both Phison, which is the controller manufacturer involved in this issue, and Microsoft, they've both said that they're unable to reproduce the fault, and so they're both saying that they're not at fault for this. As far as they're concerned, it's not a problem. That's been their stance up till now. So the fact that Jay was able to reliably reproduce the problem is a huge breakthrough. Now we know it's a problem. So for these reasons, in responding to comments over the past few days asking about this, I've been saying, I don't really know where we are with this. I don't even know if it's really a problem, because sometimes what happens is Windows will have an update. There's a series of faults that happen to a small number of users. The two are connected, and it's just assumed that the update caused the problem. Sometimes that's correct, sometimes it's not. But in the last week or so, between Jay 2 cents and his channel and what he's done, the work he's done, and some other people who are reporting on this issue, it's getting much more consistent and much more likely that this really is a problem. The people that are working on it and are able to reproduce this problem, the only area of commonality is this KB5063878 update. Without that update, there doesn't seem to be an issue. Now, why that's a little bit of a problem is because that update can't really be gotten rid of. And I've noticed that there's some YouTubers out there, and what they're saying is, well, just uninstall the update and you'll be fine. But what Jay's 2 cents, his channel, found out is that that doesn't work, and here's why. Let's take a look at my Windows Update screen now. Now I'm in Settings, I've gone to Windows Update, and if you look at the update history, you'll see that I have this update. Here it is right now. And you'll note that it's a cumulative update for Windows 11, numbered KB5063878. So what you might be thinking is, okay, if I want to avoid a problem with my SSD, I just have to get rid of that update. But it doesn't work like that, and here's why. If I scroll down to where it says uninstall updates, this is the tool for getting rid of updates you don't want. We'll wait for that to load, and here we see the KB5063878 but it's the security update. So you notice on the original update history screen, it's a cumulative update. So cumulative update has patches, usability fixes, reliability fixes, as well as security patches. So when you go here, all you're uninstalling is the security portion of that cumulative update. Now on Jay's channel, they did uninstall the security update, taking out just that portion of the overall update. And guess what? They still had the problem with the SSDs. It didn't fix it. So people who are telling you just to get rid of that and everything will be fine, it's not really the case. And Jay's 2 cents, his channel has shown that the problem remains because you're only getting rid of a portion of that update, and apparently it's not the portion that's causing the problem. So here we've got this problem now where Windows 11 seems to be destroying SSDs. When Jay did his testing, he was able to get his SSDs back each time by doing a full power off of the computer. So he shut the computer down, turned the power off on his power supply, brought it back, and then the SSD was there again. Other people are reporting that their SSDs have been permanently bricked. The data is lost, the SSD can't be recovered. So it's a pretty big issue. And in addition, it's spreading. Originally, Phison was the only controller manufacturer being identified. It was just a very small set of their controllers, but now that's widened out to more of their controllers, and now there's even suggestions that more manufacturers are involved. On Jay's video, he mentions 4. He doesn't say who they are. He just says his understanding is that there's 4 manufacturers involved, but Phison is the only one that's actually admitting to it and acknowledging the problem right now. So we can see this as a big problem. It's spreading to more manufacturers potentially. It's spreading to more versions of Phison's controller. It's now spreading to more scenarios. It's not just large file transfers, it's also gaming, and it can be other things. So this is now becoming a bigger and bigger problem. So the question you're probably asking yourself is, how do I go about protecting myself from this Windows 11 update? Well, the easiest thing is if you haven't received this update yet, and I think most computers probably have, but if you haven't, turn off Windows updates. Like, don't let it update for a while until Windows or Microsoft gets this sorted out. The challenge with that is Microsoft has been saying, well, this isn't our problem. We've looked into it. We've done nothing wrong. Phison is saying, this isn't our problem. We've looked into it. We've done nothing wrong. And both are suggesting that maybe there's not even a problem here. So that isn't really encouraging when it comes to thinking that there's going to be a fix anytime soon. So you may have to put off your Windows updates for quite a long time before we see a solution. But barring that, the issue that we have and that we see from Jay's 2 cents is that there's really no way to get around the problem. Because you can't uninstall the update once it's been installed, there's no way to protect yourself. Like Jay's recommendation was, well, buy yourself an SSD that isn't on the list of ones that we know are affected. And on his video, which again I'll link below, he does have a list of affected SSDs. And a lot of them are very common SSDs. But because the understanding is this is spreading to other manufacturers, you don't really know the full list of SSDs that have a problem. So that's an awful lot of work to go through to buy yourself a new SSD, transfer all your data and applications and operating system over, put it into your machine, and you don't know whether it's going to be a full solution. I think for most people, they're going to have a challenge with going through all that work and expense for a solution that they don't know for sure is going to work. So here's my recommendation. You got to back up your stuff. And I think, we all know that we're supposed to be backing up. We all know it's kind of a pain, so we all tend to put it off a little bit. But right now, because of this problem, because it's growing and spreading and there's a lot of uncertainty about exactly who it's going to affect, backing up is more important than ever. Certainly all of your important documents, your family photos, videos, whatever you've got that's important to you, make sure you have backups. And make sure that those backups are stored in a way that if something happens to your machine or your SSDs, it's not going to become an issue. So I wouldn't have that backup on a separate SSD in the same machine, for instance. Back it up to the cloud like OneDrive or Google Drive. Put it on a portable drive that you can unplug from your machine. Put it on a network drive, somewhere where it's not in the same machine and on the same format as the SSD that it's currently on where you might have a problem. That'll give you reasonable security that you're not going to lose all your data should this happen. Now, because this problem is spreading, I rather suspect that Microsoft is going to have to address this at some point. Right now, it's just deny, deny, deny. It's not our problem. We don't even know if it is a problem, etc. But there is so much being written about this. There's so many videos being put out and so many people that are now reproducing the problem that I think it's not going to go away for them. I have read reports that suggest Microsoft is secretly working on this in the background while they're denying it. So maybe that's true, maybe it's not. But we need to be prepared for the fact that maybe this won't have a quick fix. On the other hand, there might be a fix tomorrow. That's how these things tend to work. There's not a fix until there is a fix. So until you hear otherwise, maintaining those backups is going to be really important. Now with that, I think there's a much bigger issue at play here that we need to appreciate as a part of this. And that is that Microsoft Windows has 70% of the desktop and laptop computer market. 70% of all desktops and laptops run Windows. Apple has about 16% of the market. Linux is down about 4% of the market. I think 8% is other unidentified operating systems. This is the problem when you have one company that has so much control of a market with 70% of computers running Windows. When Windows does a boo-boo like this and makes an error that causes data loss, that causes problem with computers, think of how many people are involved. Like, this thing is going to span the globe and is going to create tons and tons and tons of problems for a whole lot of people potentially. And it just gets added on to the pile of Microsoft failures recently and issues. There's so much concern about the cutoff of support for Windows 10 and how we're going to have all these potentially hundreds of millions of older computers going to e-recycling and how unsustainable that is. People are upset about that. People are upset about privacy issues with Windows 11, particularly with Copilot and how that AI operates now. People are tired of getting advertised at constantly by Microsoft, and it seems that more and more Microsoft products are pushing advertising both for Microsoft products and for others. So there's all these issues now with Microsoft and with Windows. And now this is another one. Here we've got this problem where an update that they pushed out that your computer just accepts is destroying people's SSDs potentially and potentially causing them to lose data. So it's adding to a pretty tall pile of issues with Microsoft that's starting to get people irritated. So to my mind, isn't now the time to have a real competitor to Microsoft? Like, why is it that outside of the Apple ecosystem, for our PCs, there's really only one operating system? I know and I love Linux, but let's face it, Linux has limitations that make it so that people find it hard to adopt, which is why it only has 4% market share. But it's time for a contender, and this is just my own personal opinion. I think it's time for a new company to come out, bring us an operating system that works on our PCs, that's fully fledged, easy to use, is widely compatible with all kinds of hardware, and doesn't have all these problems that Windows seems to keep having. It's time for another option. That's just my opinion. I'm a little bit frustrated with all of this. I'm a little bit terrified about my computers. I use Western Digital Blue drives, and all of my drives, all my WD drives, are on this list of ones that are known to be affected with the Phison controller issue. So I'm a little nervous and a little irritated. I'd love to know what you think. How does this impact your view of Microsoft and Windows? Are you concerned about data loss in your SSDs, and what are you doing to protect yourself? Because frankly, for me, backups are all that I can think of. Leave your comments down below. I'd love to hear from them. Keep your stuff safe. Be aware that this is a problem. Keep your eye out for a fix. And in the meantime, I'll look forward to seeing you on the next video.